The next day, I usually wake up in some strange place with a kid with an accent playing with my feet.
Every day, I share a new video about the stars of Hollywood's golden age. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe, like, or leave a comment. It means a lot to me and costs you nothing. Thank you for watching. Now, let's begin the story. Johnny Carson interviewed thousands of stars, actors pushing movies, musicians hyping albums, and authors showing off their books. But every now and then, someone different walked onto that stage. Someone who could make Johnny completely lose it. There were moments so wild that he'd laugh until he was wiping tears from his face, barely able to keep the show together. This right here is the ultimate list of Johnny Carson's 15 funniest guests ever. And at the top, we've got the unstoppable Robin Williams, the electrifying whirlwind himself. Robin didn't just do interviews, he turned every appearance into pure chaotic performance art. He was a storm of characters, voices, and energy bursting out of nowhere like fireworks on live TV. His mind moved faster than anyone could keep up with, jokes flying at lightning speed. Johnny could hardly breathe between laughs, just sitting back and letting the madness take over.
It's exciting to wear tights and have people go, I can't see anything.
Pinot Noir.
Someone give him a dagger. Thank you.
Was the dagger I see in my hand?
What is this I hold before me?
1 second, Robin was a Russian poet, then suddenly a British preacher, then somehow a Southern grandma, all within half a minute. It was insane. Johnny didn't even try to interrupt. He'd just lean back, grinning like one of the crowd, while Robin completely took over the stage. The whole set transformed. Johnny's desk turned into a performance platform. His chair became a comedy prop. Robin grabbed Johnny's coffee cup and made it talk, swung the microphone like a golf club, and turned anything nearby into part of his act. And Johnny, he was loving every chaotic second of it.
If you think about Shakespeare, you think about a man basically with the education, second-grade education, wrote some of the greatest poetry of all times. I think maybe not. I don't know. Wandering around Stratford after a couple of beers, knocking on doors, going, is this to be or not to be? I wrote that. It's mine.
That's mine.
I'm William Shakespeare, right? Kiss my tights.
Number 2, Don Rickles, the unstoppable king of insults. Every time Rickles hit the Tonight Show stage, it felt like he was marching onto his own turf. He didn't just tease Johnny, he torched him right to his face. He roasted the audience, Doc Severinsen, the band, basically anyone who dared to breathe within 10 feet of him. His wild, unpredictable energy was pure chaos, and everyone loved it. Then came the infamous cigarette box incident, one of the wildest moments in Tonight Show history. Rickles was guest hosting one night when he accidentally broke Johnny's beloved cigarette box during a bit. Days later, Carson stormed the set of Rickles' show CPO Sharkey, completely unannounced, to get his hilarious revenge. The crowd went crazy as Johnny confronted him on live TV, turning payback into pure comedy gold. The real thrill with Rickles was the danger. Nobody ever knew who he was going to go after next. You could see Johnny sitting there grinning, but also bracing himself for that next savage jab headed straight his way. And when it hit, Johnny would fold over in laughter, completely losing it. Rickles treated Johnny like a lifelong buddy, which meant zero mercy and no boundaries. He cracked jokes about Johnny's marriages, his suits, even his hair. Nothing was sacred.
What the hell happened to this? You know how long I've had the cigarette box?
It happened last night.
Who?
Don Rickles.
I did not see the
Don
show
Rickles
last
did it last night. He's taping across the hall.
Somebody broke my cigarette box.
Come here. Believe this.
I just started the show. I picked my box up off my desk that I've had for 9 years. My box is broken. They told me you broke it on the show last night.
Well, I realize... But just keep me on your show. You mean so much to me. Can I...
No.
Please.
No. Don't humble yourself.
Please, I want to be with you so bad.
Don't humble yourself, brother. I want something back. Okay, carry on.
Help me.
Carry on. Good to see you.
Johnny Carson. They know who I am.
But that's exactly what made their chemistry so special. Johnny trusted Rickles enough to let him say whatever he wanted, and that fearless friendship made TV magic every single time. Number 3, Rodney Dangerfield, the master of one-liners and the man who built an empire out of getting no respect. Nobody on earth could match Rodney's lightning-fast rhythm. It was just one hit after another. Bam! Every punchline landed harder than the last, leaving Johnny and the whole crowd gasping for air from laughing so much. His timing was flawless. That nervous tug at the collar, the quick glances, the voice full of panic. It was comedy perfection. Johnny absolutely loved Rodney. You could see it in the way he'd sit there, half counting the punchlines like he knew another was coming, but still couldn't brace himself for it. Every time Rodney launched into his "my wife, my doctor, my kids, nobody respects me" bit, Johnny would lose it all over again. The desperation in Rodney's act was so over the top, it became pure gold.
I tell you, my neighbor don't get no respect either. No respect at all. You kidding? But no respect from anybody. I bought some rat poison. The girl asked me, should I wrap it up? You're going to eat it here. I mean, the girls always gave me a hard time. I'm not a ladies' man, that's why. You kidding? I know I'm ugly. I stuck my head out the window, got arrested for mooning.
Rodney's whole routine was built on failure, frustration, and bad luck. But he sold it with so much charm that you couldn't help but laugh. Carson would try to sneak in a question, but it never mattered. Rodney would plow right through with 5 more jokes before Johnny could even finish his sentence. It wasn't really an interview. It was a full-blown stand-up set happening right at Johnny's desk. Sometimes Johnny would lean back, tears in his eyes, pounding the desk from laughing so hard. Other times, he'd just shake his head in awe, amazed at how Rodney never ran out of material. The pace, the delivery, the chaos. It was pure genius, and Johnny knew it. Number 4, Steve Martin, the king of absurd comedy. Steve brought a totally different flavor. Goofy magic tricks that were designed to fail. Deadpan banjo jokes and one-liners delivered with a perfectly straight face. His chemistry with Johnny was razor sharp. The clueless oddball versus the cool, composed host. It was the perfect comic matchup, and the crowd couldn't get enough. Steve Martin could turn the simplest desk prop into a full-blown laugh riot. He had the kind of comedic timing that most comedians could only dream of. He knew exactly when to let silence build the tension before dropping something totally absurd. Johnny would ask what seemed like a normal question, and Steve would hit back with an answer so bizarre it made no sense at all. Yet he'd deliver it with complete seriousness. Then the two would just stare at each other for a few long seconds, and boom, the crowd would absolutely lose it. Martin's props were legendary. The fake arrow through the head, the floppy bunny ears, the crisp white suit that screamed ridiculousness. Everything about his look and performance was intentionally offbeat, and Johnny played along like a pro. He'd pretend to take Steve completely seriously, which only made the nonsense twice as funny. It felt like 2 comic geniuses sharing an inside joke, both completely in sync and having the time of their lives while the audience roared around them. Number 5, Joan Rivers, the woman who had zero filter. She was fast, fearless, and absolutely relentless. Joan came for everyone. Hollywood stars, her own marriage, even herself, and she did it with that razor-sharp wit that could slice through steel. Johnny couldn't stop laughing. He'd pound the desk, gasping for breath as Joan unleashed one rapid-fire punchline after another. Joan brought a raw honesty that TV wasn't ready for back then. She'd call out celebrities by name, make jokes about plastic surgery before anyone else dared to, and turn her own life into comedic chaos. Her self-deprecating humor was shocking, bold, and brutally funny, and Johnny loved it. He respected her guts, her timing, and her willingness to say the things other comics wouldn't even whisper on air. Joan Rivers never held back, not once. She didn't water down her jokes for the Tonight Show crowd or try to play it safe. Every time she hit that stage, she came out swinging, sharp as ever, and totally fearless. And the best part? Johnny let her. He gave her the space to go all in, laughing at her wildest punchlines, backing her up as she tore through taboo topics that most guests wouldn't even whisper about. You could feel the mutual respect between them. Johnny didn't see Joan as just a female comedian. He saw her as a powerhouse performer, a real equal who could hold her own with anyone. And she paid that respect back by being outrageously funny every single time she sat in that guest chair. It's heartbreaking how their friendship later fell apart after the whole Fox show situation. But during those golden years, Joan wasn't just a regular guest. She was a force of nature, one of the funniest to ever share the stage with Carson. Number 6, Jonathan Winters, the one-man improv tornado. Winters didn't just tell jokes. He built entire worlds right there on Johnny's desk. Give him a coffee cup, an ashtray, or even a pencil, and suddenly you were watching 10 different characters come to life at once. Johnny knew the magic in that madness. He'd hand Winters some random object just to see what chaos would unfold, then lean back, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Winters didn't need a script or even an idea, just a spark. 1 second, he'd grab a pencil and turn it into a fishing rod. The next, he'd become the fish. Then, without missing a beat, he'd turn into the angry wife yelling from the dock. And before you knew it, he was the boat itself. It was total improvisational insanity happening live, and nobody did it better. Johnny adored that unpredictability. He loved that with Jonathan, anything could happen. The risk of live TV became part of the thrill, and Winters thrived on it. Sometimes he'd get so lost in his characters that Johnny had to literally step in to cut to commercial. And even then, Winters would stay deep in character, refusing to break. It was pure, brilliant chaos, the kind of comedy that only happens once in a lifetime. Jonathan Winters kept the energy going straight through commercial breaks. The man was fearless, totally unpredictable, and that's exactly what made his appearances unforgettable TV. Number 7, Bob Hope, the legend who practically built The Tonight Show's legacy. Bob wasn't just another guest. He was a walking piece of comedy history. His timing was razor sharp, his jokes polished to perfection from decades in the game, and he delivered every line with that effortless old-school confidence that only true pros have. Whenever Bob Hope stepped through that curtain, Johnny's whole face lit up. You could tell this was more than just respect. It was admiration. Johnny grew up watching Hope dominate stages long before he had his own show. And now here they were, 2 comedy giants trading punchlines like heavyweight champs. Their chemistry was flawless, like 2 masters sparring for fun. Johnny would set up a joke, and Bob would spike it right back with a perfectly timed zinger. Then Bob would toss one over, and Johnny would return it just as sharp. The audience wasn't just watching a talk show. They were witnessing a live masterclass in comedy rhythm and timing. Even in his later years, when most comedians his age were slowing down, Bob Hope never coasted. He'd come on The Tonight Show armed with fresh material, quick political burns, jokes about Hollywood, even self-deprecating cracks about getting older, and he nailed every one of them. To Johnny, Bob represented the golden age of show business, the kind of performer who defined what entertainer really meant. So whenever Hope sat down at that desk, it wasn't just another guest spot. It felt like a moment of history, one legend saluting another, with the audience lucky enough to watch it happen live. It was pure joy, Johnny getting to sit across from one of his comedy heroes. You could see the admiration all over his face every time Bob Hope cracked a line. And the best part? Hope treated Johnny like an equal, not some lucky kid who stumbled into fame, but a real comedian who earned his place behind that desk. It was 2 generations of comedy greatness meeting eye to eye, and both of them knew it. Number 8, Tim Conway, the man who could make Johnny fall out of his chair laughing. Conway was the ultimate slow burn comic, his timing so wickedly precise that the smallest pause or glance could send the audience into hysterics. He was the king of stretching a story past its breaking point, dragging a bit out so long that the room got quiet, everyone waiting for what might come next. And then, with just the tiniest twitch, maybe a raised eyebrow or a barely there head tilt, boom, the whole studio would erupt. Conway's secret was total commitment. He never cracked, never winked, never broke the moment. He'd stay perfectly straight-faced while describing something completely absurd, and that deadpan seriousness made it even funnier. Meanwhile, Johnny was losing it, sliding in his chair, covering his face, barely able to breathe. The harder Johnny laughed, the more calmly Tim kept going, feeding the chaos with total control. Sometimes Conway would start telling a story about something as simple as going to the dentist or walking his dog. But by the time he finished, it had turned into a full-blown epic. His body language, his pacing, every pause was timed to perfection. By the end, Johnny would be wiping away tears, begging him to stop because he literally couldn't catch his breath from laughing so hard. That was Tim Conway's true gift, turning the ordinary into pure comedic gold through nothing but timing, patience, and total commitment to the bit. Number 9, Richard Pryor, the fearless firebrand. Loose, sharp, and completely unpredictable, Pryor brought a raw, unfiltered energy that no one else could match. His storytelling sounded totally improvised, like he was just talking off the cuff, yet every single word hit perfectly on beat. Johnny had immense respect for him, not just as a comedian, but as a truth-teller who could make people laugh and think at the same time. You could see the respect in Johnny's face whenever Richard Pryor spoke. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to take control. He just listened. The entire energy in the studio would shift the moment Pryor started talking. It was like the air got heavier, charged with honesty and raw emotion. 1 second, he'd have the crowd doubled over with laughter, and in the next, he'd drop something so real and vulnerable that everyone just sat there stunned and silent before laughing again through the shock. Pryor's storytelling was unmatched. He'd dive into stories about his childhood, his family, his battles with addiction, all of it delivered with brutal honesty and flawless timing. Somehow he made pain funny without ever disrespecting it. That's what made him a true genius. He found humor inside the truth, not around it. Johnny understood that power. He gave Richard the freedom to be completely himself. No filters, no fake smiles, no polished TV routine. Their conversations weren't like typical Tonight Show interviews. They felt real. Pryor would push boundaries that made NBC executives nervous, but Johnny didn't flinch. He defended him. He knew Pryor's voice mattered, that his comedy came from a place of truth you couldn't script or censor. Because of that trust, their segments became some of the most unforgettable moments in Tonight Show history. Number 10, Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise, the wildest tag team in comedy. Every time those two showed up, chaos was guaranteed. Their appearances were pure, out-of-control comedy combat. Whipped cream flying, chairs breaking, and pranks erupting mid-conversation. 1 minute, Burt was tossing water on Dom's head. The next, Dom was cracking up so hard he could barely breathe. Johnny Carson never stood a chance of keeping order when those two hit the stage. Their visits felt like unscripted barroom brawls between two oversized kids, while Johnny sat in the middle, laughing helplessly and trying not to get caught in the crossfire. They might have started with a plan, but within minutes, the whole thing would spiral into glorious mayhem. Burt and Dom together were pure comedic chaos, unstoppable, unfiltered, and absolutely hysterical. Their energy was infectious, their timing perfect, and every visit felt like a small explosion of joy that Johnny and the audience couldn't get enough of. Dom DeLuise would start cracking up at his own jokes, and that alone was enough to send Burt Reynolds over the edge. Burt would jump out of his chair, playfully tackle him, and the two would end up rolling around on the floor like kids on a sugar rush. They'd break props, knock over furniture, and leave the set looking like a comedy war zone. The audience went wild every single time because it didn't feel rehearsed. It felt real. It was pure, joyful chaos, and everyone could tell that even Johnny had completely lost control. Carson would try to steer the show back on track, but it was useless. Burt and Dom were too busy trying to make each other laugh, and in doing that, they made everyone laugh, including Johnny himself. Eventually, Carson just gave in. He'd toss out one question and then sit back, watching the madness unfold like a proud but helpless referee. Sometimes Johnny couldn't resist jumping in, maybe tossing something at them, dropping a sarcastic jab or cracking up mid-sentence. But mostly, he just let the two of them destroy the room while he laughed until he cried. Those moments became must-watch television because you never knew what might happen. The only guarantee was total, glorious insanity. Number 11, David Letterman, the sharp-tongued sidekick turned future host. Before taking over his own late-night empire, Letterman brought a brand of sarcastic, dry humor that fit perfectly alongside Carson's calm, cool demeanor. Their chemistry was electric. Two Midwestern minds bouncing off each other with effortless rhythm. Johnny absolutely beamed when Letterman came on the show. You could see the pride in his eyes. Like a mentor watching his protege take flight, Dave would poke fun at the very structure of the talk show. The desk, the curtain, the fake glamour, turning the Tonight Show itself into part of the joke. And Johnny, he loved it. He played along every time, pretending to be the straight man while clearly enjoying every jab. Letterman's humor had that sly, ironic edge, the same kind of deadpan wit Johnny had perfected years earlier. It wasn't imitation. It was evolution. Dave wasn't trying to be the next Johnny Carson, but Johnny clearly saw something familiar in him. That same quiet rebellion against Hollywood polish, that same gift for laughing at the machine while running it. The respect between them was unmistakable. When Letterman sat at that desk, it didn't feel like just another comedian doing a segment. It felt like a torch being passed in real time from one legend to another who truly got it. Someone who understood that real comedy didn't come from trying too hard. It came from honesty, timing, and total confidence in the moment. Number 12, Sammy Davis Jr., the ultimate all-in-one entertainer. This man could do everything: impressions, music, dancing, off-the-cuff comedy. You name it, Sammy nailed it. His lightning-fast celebrity impressions had Johnny doubled over in laughter as Sammy bounced effortlessly from song to joke to dance step, never missing a beat. In just minutes, an ordinary guest segment would explode into a full-blown variety show. 1 second, he was Dean Martin, smooth and laid back. The next, he was Sinatra, then Jimmy Cagney, each voice and mannerism spot on. It was like watching a dozen stars trapped inside one man's body, and he made it look easy. Johnny adored guests like Sammy, real, old-school performers who could command the stage without breaking a sweat. Sammy could sing, dance, act, crack jokes, do perfect impressions, and even play instruments if the moment called for it. Every time he appeared, you knew something unforgettable was about to happen. Johnny barely had to do anything. Just set him up with a question and let the magic unfold. Watching Sammy work was like watching a Vegas masterclass in pure entertainment, and Carson was clearly thrilled every single time. Number 13, Bob Newhart, the master of the slow burn. His comedy wasn't loud or flashy. It was all about precision, timing, and the power of silence. Bob's calm, nervous delivery drew the audience in so tightly that even the smallest punchline landed like a knockout. His famous one-sided phone call routines were legendary. He'd create entire scenes out of pauses, reactions, and expressions, making you picture the conversation without ever hearing the other side. That quiet genius was his superpower. Johnny loved Newhart's control, his ability to make tiny gestures feel huge. While most comics went big and wild, Bob went subtle and surgical, turning understatement into comedy gold. Every word, every pause, every breath was perfectly placed, and Johnny knew he was watching one of the smoothest craftsmen in the business do what he did best. Johnny always tried to keep it together when Bob Newhart was on, but once Bob found his rhythm, that calm, perfectly awkward groove, it was over. Johnny would crack up, breaking character completely. And honestly, that was the highest compliment a comedian could ever get from Carson. Bob earned it almost every single time. Number 14, Mel Brooks, the unstoppable ball of energy and pure theatrical chaos. Mel didn't just appear on The Tonight Show. He took it over. Fast, loud, and larger than life. He could turn anything on the set into part of his act. 1 minute, he'd be answering a question, and the next, he'd be halfway through a musical number, dragging Johnny into it while the crowd screamed with laughter. Brooks treated the set like his personal playground, jumping on furniture, grabbing Johnny, breaking into random songs, even belting out opera for no reason other than it felt right in the moment. You couldn't take your eyes off him because you never knew what he'd do next. He'd start describing a scene and suddenly perform the whole movie, complete with voices, accents, and sound effects. Johnny was usually doubled over, trying to keep up, laughing so hard that he'd lose control of the show. Even when the commercial break kicked in, Mel wouldn't stop. He'd keep performing like the cameras never went off. It was chaos, it was brilliance, and it was classic Mel Brooks. Number 15, Harvey Korman, the man who turned losing control into an art form. Harvey was famous for breaking mid-bit, burying his face in his hands, shaking with laughter, begging Johnny to help him pull it together while the audience lost their minds. Years of sketch comedy on the Carol Burnett Show taught him that sometimes the funniest moment wasn't the joke itself. It was watching someone try not to laugh. And nobody did that better than Harvey. The tiniest slip-up, the smallest flub, could send him into total hysterics. Johnny loved every second of it. Watching Harvey fall apart live on air was comedy gold, the kind of raw human laughter that couldn't be scripted or faked. Every visit was unpredictable, joyful, and perfectly imperfect. The pure essence of what made The Tonight Show legendary. Harvey Korman's total inability to keep a straight face became its own kind of running gag, a meta-comedy moment where his breakdown was the punchline. The audience lived for it. Every time his shoulders started shaking or his voice cracked mid-story, the crowd would lose it right along with him. It felt like everyone in the studio was sharing an inside joke, one that never got old. Johnny secretly encouraged it, too. You could see the grin on his face every time Harvey started to fall apart. The moment Korman tried to hold it together and failed, collapsing into laughter, trying to recover, then breaking down again, the entire room would erupt. It created this wild feedback loop between Harvey and the audience, where every delayed reaction and tiny flinch hit harder than a punchline ever could. It looked spontaneous, but it was really expert-level control, the kind of craft only a true comedy veteran could pull off. Harvey made losing it look natural, and Johnny knew that was no accident. He saw the genius behind pretending to fall apart right on cue, and that's why he adored him for it. All the legends on this list had that same spark, the ability to turn a late-night appearance into a moment that people would never forget. For them, The Tonight Show wasn't just about plugging a project. It was about making Johnny laugh and leaving a piece of themselves in TV history. So tell me, who do you think was Johnny Carson's funniest guest ever? Was it one of these icons, or did someone else deserve a spot on the list? Drop your pick down in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more legendary stories from Carson's Golden Tonight Show era.